I'm continuing to use my powers. I hope lightning is shooting out of my hands. Like in my brain, I thought it'd be cool if I had a lightning effect shooting out of my fingers like Palpatine, but I'm not very confident I can actually achieve that editing wise. So I just hope it looks cool. I hope this looks sick. A couple of days ago, I made a video talking about the players that I would not want to trade for. Circling back today, we're going to talk about some players that I would want to trade for. Now, this video is not going to be like, oh, let's trade for Jokic. We should trade for that Giannis guy. This is going to be realistic, right? These are guys who maybe their value is at an all-time low and it might be worth you taking a risk on them, or maybe these guys are available because the team's rebuilding or they're trying to shed some salary, whatever the case may be. We're going to look at some players that I think are realistically obtainable who could help out teams win. I'll probably clickbait the video and say that there's 5 players, but there's going to be more. There's just a few dudes, just some guys hanging out, being friends. Let's start this video with Clint Capela, center for the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I have my concerns with Capela, admittedly. He's getting a little bit older. Lower body injuries have definitely slowed him down quite a bit over the last few years, but I still think he's a strong, solid, very capable center. 2 years left on his contract, $42 million. There's definitely a world where Atlanta is looking to shed some salary. Maybe they're looking to move up in the draft from 15, and they're willing to tack on Clint Capela. You know, they want to open up some room for Okongwu. Whatever the case may be, I wouldn't be shocked if Capela is available this offseason, and he's a nice center to have. Opponents shot 6 percentage points worse at the rim when defended by Capela. He's in the 99th percentile in rim points saved per 75 possessions, 1.2 blocks per game. Maybe not as dominant of a rim protector as he once was back when he was on the Rockets and even early in the Hawks years, but he's still a very capable rim protector. A monster rebounder. That's the big thing about Capela. 97th percentile defensive rebound talent, 99th percentile offensive rebound talent. One of the best offensive rebounders in the game. And if you don't have somebody to match up with him, he's going to dominate you on the glass. We have seen that. And he's still one of the best pick and roll players in the NBA. Now, he's been very fortunate over his career to play with 2 of the best pick and roll ball handlers of the last 20 years, Trae Young and James Harden. But he averaged 1.3 points per possession as the pick and roll man this season. That's in the 100th percentile, 4th amongst centers, trailing only Christian Wood, Mitchell Robinson, and go ahead and guess. Go ahead and take a stab at who the last one is. Go ahead and guess. Dwight Powell. That's right. He's not going to be the center of the future for you if you trade for him, but he's a solid stopgap guy. And for a team like Dallas, he would make a ton of sense. How about another center? This one's maybe a little bit more optimistic in regards to his availability, but there's been some rumblings. There have been some reports. I'm talking about Jared Allen, Cleveland Cavaliers. He was absolutely abysmal in the playoffs. No secret about that. He was horrible. He only averaged 9 points and 7 rebounds per game in that series against the Knicks. Compare that to his regular season average of 14 and 10. And yeah, that's a pretty monumental drop-off right there. 3 years, $60 million left on his deal, so it's not super cheap, but he's still young. He's a year removed from making the All-Star game. Why would the Cavaliers trade him? Well, they have limited assets after the Donovan Mitchell trade. They have a glaring weakness on the wing. Maybe they feel like they can get solid production from a center somewhere else, but it's very hard to upgrade that wing position. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here, but it's not out of the realm of possibility that he's available. Opponents shot 9 percentage points worse at the rim against Jared Allen this season. 100th percentile in rim points saved over a block per game. We all know his shot blocking ability, his rim protection ability. Paired alongside Evan Mobley, he looks really good. I highly doubt he's available, but if he is, he's worth a flyer for sure. 96th percentile in both defensive rebounding and offensive rebounding. A beast on the glass. A good pick and roll guy, and he's got a bag. He's got a sneaky bag. He's got some post moves. He's got that hook shot. He's got some moves at his disposal that he likes to go to offensively in the post. It's not the most dominant thing in the world, but he has them. It's something that's at his disposal. There's been some rumblings, right? I've heard from people who have heard from people. So don't take my word for this, but if Tim Hardaway Jr. was available in a 1-for-1 trade, that's something the Cavs could consider. That's just some rumblings I have heard through the grapevine. Got to talk about the Washington Wizards. They've been a huge news story just this morning. The Bradley Beal stuff all over the place. Maybe I'll make a video talking about that at some other time. Let's start with another center, Daniel Gafford. I have a hard time imagining he'll be made available, and if he is available, I don't think it'll be for very cheap. He's going to turn 25 next season, so he's still young. His contract is pretty team-friendly. 3 years, $12 million, $13 million, $14 million on that contract. So a team-friendly contract for a player who's capable of doing what he's doing. He shot 82% at the rim this season. 82%, 1.28 points per possession at the rim, 1.42 points per possession on putbacks and 1.43 points per possession on dump-off. So get him the ball around the rim. He's finishing that shit. Great athlete, great above the rim finisher, slams it down with the best of them. And he's in the 84th percentile when it comes to offensive rebounding talent. One of the best putback artists, maestros in the NBA that we have in this beautiful sport called basketball of the NBA Association. Opponents shoot 10 percentage points worse at the rim when defended by him. 100th percentile for rim protection. I don't know what that fucking stat means, because every single player I looked up here, center-wise, was like in the 100th percentile in rim protection grade. So 1.3 blocks per game. His age, his contract, makes him a very interesting trade piece if the Wizards were looking to completely tear down their entire roster, or if they do make a BL or KP trade and a team can sort of vulture on and grab Daniel Gafford. Another younger guy, Denny Avdia, 22 years old. There's a lot to like about his game, a lot of uncertainties, but if he's available, and I don't think it's necessarily impossible that he'll be available, because they did just trade Rui Hachimura, who's about to be in the same position Denny was, and a restricted free agent next summer. Maybe they don't want to pay Denny. I don't know. I'm just looking for reasons. But very quietly, Denny Avdia has blossomed into one of the better wing defenders in the game. 96th percentile in matchup difficulty, 99th percentile in matchup versatility. That's what you want to see from perimeter defenders. 99th percentile in on-ball defense, 93rd off-ball defense, 96th on ball screen navigation. Those are the three big ones for Basketball Index. He's one of only 20 guys in the league to be in the 90th percentile in all three. And like I said, he'll be a restricted free agent, not this summer, but next summer. Maybe Washington's not all that interested in paying him. They're committed to the rebuild. They have a completely new front office. Hey, I didn't draft this fucking guy. I don't want him. That happens from time to time. Maybe he's gettable. You know, he's a smart player. He has good basketball IQ that helps him out playmaking wise. His offense is a little bit shaky. He's not a good shooter. Had a horrible shooting season. He leaves a lot to be desired on the offensive end. Not really a one-on-one bucket getter. But again, his IQ makes him a pretty strong playmaker, connective passer. That's valuable stuff. Like, we're talking about a good team defender and somebody who could potentially be a good team offensive player, which for a role guy, that's all you're asking for, really. And he's a really strong rebounder for his size. I mean, he's a big dude. He's got a nice frame, lunch pail attitude. What's going on with the Clippers? Zach Lowe on his podcast yesterday said that he could see two of the following four players traded: Robert Covington, Norman Powell, Nicolas Batum, and Marcus Morris. In fact, he guaranteed that two of those four would be gone. Robert Covington, Norman Powell, Nicolas Batum, all interesting players. Marcus Morris, enjoy the Clippers next season, buddy. No one wants you. Nicolas Batum is going to be 34 years old. He's older, $11 million as an expiring contract, so not a bad contract or anything like that. Did not have a great season this past year, but the Clippers were 6 points per 100 possessions better when he was on the court. You know, he's always had that interesting positional versatility defensively where he could guard up the fives as a small ball five, but, 3, 4, 5, probably way past his time to be guarding twos or anything like that. 88th percentile in matchup difficulty, 99th percentile in matchup versatility, 86th percentile in on-ball defense, 72nd off-ball, 82nd ball screen. So still a solid defender, metric-wise at least. And, eye test-wise, he's a pretty solid defender. 38% on catch-and-shoot threes this past season. He was 40% on catch-and-shoot threes in the 2 seasons prior. So he can at least catch and shoot. Again, a pretty smart passer, so he's a connective passer. If he could be had for cheap, I mean, this is a solid role guy. And I don't know if, the Clippers just need to consolidate their assets or whatever, but Nicolas Batum could be a solid, 7th or 8th man for somebody. Robert Covington, like if I had to guess, Robert Covington is very much available. 1 year, $11 million left on his deal. Some very strange rotation stuff with him last season where he was in the rotation, then out of the rotation for weeks at a time, getting DNPs, then back in the rotation, did not play in the playoffs really at all. So I could definitely see him on the move. He's not who he used to be. He's not the elite premier wing defender and, wing roll guy in the league anymore, but he's still pretty strong, man. 99th percentile in matchup versatility. That's always been his thing. 36% of his minutes with the Clippers this past season was at the center position. So that's like the big thing with Robert Covington is he can be your small ball five. And the Clippers defense was very, very good when he was at center. 99th percentile in deflections. He's got those active hands. 40th percentile in catch and shoot threes. So again, not like if your team trades for Robert Covington, it's not like this groundbreaking move that's going to change your franchise forever. But he's an interesting role guy who is in like a weird limbo situation with his current team rotation wise. He could probably be had for cheap if I had to guess. And finally, Norman Powell, who Zach Lowe also mentioned. I don't see a reason why the Clippers would be shopping Norman Powell, but hey, if they were, He's an interesting option. He just turned 30 years old. He's got $60 million owed to him over the next 3 years. So a pretty sizable contract. But for a player like Norman Powell, definitely fair. Finished 4th in 6th man of the year voting this past year, and he missed a good chunk of time because of injury. Like, he had a solid chance to win that if he was healthy the whole season. 22 points per game in the playoffs. I mean, he was really, really good in that series against the Suns, even though they lost. He had some great moments. 61% true shooting over the season. An efficient bucket getter. A great finisher, too. 84% of his field goals at the rim are unassisted. Gets to the rim, finishes at the rim, 63% at the rim. Those are beautiful numbers. I love me a solid rim pressure. Like, that's a stat. That's something that I've grown to absolutely love. If you put pressure on the rim, I like you. A strong shooter, too. 40% from 3 on the season. 42% on catch and shoot threes. Can play on ball. Can play off ball. Defensively was not very good this season. But I think when he's locked in, I think he can be an okay enough defender. Again, is he available? I don't know. Would I make him available if I were the Clippers? Probably not, unless I'm really, really upgrading. But a really great bench guy. A really great offensive player for a team if he were actually made available. So these are all guys who, you know, there's rumblings about, there's reports about them being available, or they're on teams like the Wizards who are full-fledged fire sale, it sounds like. Guys who could very much improve a team without having to give up the moon and the stars for. Is that how that phrase goes? I'm just talking out of my ass lately. Like, have you guys noticed that? I'm just saying things. Is lightning coming out? I really hope so.